Contour line, that's what we are going to really talk about in this unit. It is a observational drawing of a still life or portraits or simple objects. Now, when we talk about contour line, we need to cover lines and shapes, two of the most important elements of art that makes a successful drawing. So when we first picked up a pen or pencil and started making marks on the paper, we really began with line. Whether self-taught through trials and errors or guided by others, we learn how line defines shapes and forms, creates structures, divides a frame, traces contour, and creates tonal variations. Lines and shapes are two of the most basic and important elements that is needed in successful art making. So that's why we're starting with lines and shapes. At the beginning of this lesson, we will learn how to draw simple lines and use it to identify edges. We will begin to apply lines for their own merits as well. And hopefully by the end of this unit, you'll learn to celebrate the presence of line and create beautiful artworks. So let's go ahead and talk about lines. Okay, this is a definition of lines. Please take some time to take your notes. This will be in your quiz at the end of this video. Lines are marks moving in space between 2 points. And it really describes the outline, and that's what we are going to focus on. And it is capable of making textures depending on how thick, thin, or how long or short, lengthy or curvy, short, stocky you decide to use, it is capable of making texture. There are many different types of lines that artists may use. There are actual lines that moves from one point to the other. Implied line usually associates with a broken line, but we still associate it as a one long line because our brain can link them together. We have vertical lines, horizontal lines, diagonal lines, contour lines, which all have a different functions. But for this unit, we're really going to focus on contour line. Shapes. Shape is a two-dimensional design encased by line. It's really improvement of a line where we start to create different shapes, triangles, circles, or perpendicular lines that makes a parallelogram. Geometric shapes and organic shapes are two of the most defined shapes that we can identify with. Geometric shapes are something that are man-made and provide symbolic and synthetic feelings. We often see these shapes in road signs, triangles or circles, or we often see it in man-made furnitures or bridges in civil engineering, architecture, versus geometric shapes, we have organic shapes and lines. And organic shapes are lines are something that are more curvy, natural, that are from the natural world, like trees, plants, and animals. It's a little bit more feminine, in my opinion, and that's what we are going to celebrate. Last unit, we talked about space and we talked about geometric shapes and focused on straight lines, orthogonal, horizontal, vertical lines. Today, for this unit, we are going to really talk about organic shapes. So I have two videos that I have linked it on your Schoology for you to watch. It's a very short 2-minute video each that's going to talk more about two elements of art. Now, before I go on, I must talk about what elements of art is. It's a building block that makes a successful drawing or painting really an artwork. And those are space, line, shape, form, texture, value, and color. We sort of talked about space in previous perspective unit. Now, for this unit, the contour line unit, we are going to focus on two different things, line and shape. So it's very essential for you to watch those videos. So I'm going to go ahead and move on and have a quick compare and contrast discussion here with you. Now, this is a two very different portrait. Now, which drawing is more realistic in your eyes? Which drawing shows more successful volume or mass? If you said the drawing on the right, you are correct because it has value, which means lightness and darkness. It's able to capture how the subject changes depending on the light hitting the subject matter. It is definitely more realistic. But how about the picture on the left? Does it fail to show volume or mass? Not necessarily. It might not have value and texture, but it still conveys that volume and mass because he uses the artist, Aaron Arley. He uses the curvy lines. He uses different thickness of line to showcase the volume. And I would almost say this one for me is more lively because of the lines that he essentially put it in there are live. It's very passionate lines. It follows the curvatures, the face really beautifully. So this is what we are going to consider as a contour line, and this is what we are going to hope for this unit. By the end of this unit, this is what we want to do. Now, after this unit, we will be able to move on to drawings like on the right, where we are going to do a contour line and start adding more value and textures to create more realistic drawing. So I'm really excited for that. So let's go ahead and talk about contour line, contour definition. Contour in French means outline. So it's an artistic technique where artist sketches the outside, the outlines of a subject by drawing the lines that is essential to identify. And essential is very important here for you to write down because it's going to be on your quiz. The purpose of a contour line drawing is to emphasize the mass and volume of the subject rather than the details. Because contour can convey 3D perspective, length, width, thickness, depth, and those are all very important. That makes the live lines, right? Now we are going to talk about 4 different types of contour lines here. Here are some examples of contour line, by the way. And these are the 4 that you really need to learn how to identify visually. Let's start with the blind contour line. Blind contour line is a drawing where you're drawing your subject matter, but you're not really looking at your drawing. I know that's very confusing, but we will practice what that looks like. And that is actually very difficult to do because it's more of a brain exercise. And here are examples of blind contour line. We see very weird out sort of a contour line of a face. That is actually a very successful drawing, and you'll learn that this is very successful later on too. Gesture line drawing is a quick sketch where you are capturing the movement of your figure in a certain set of time that you're given. And because you're trying to do this very quickly, lines are very passionate that makes it makes you appreciate the flow and the movement of a figure. And here are examples of it. We have 2 different models in one drawing, and we can see the movement. It almost feels like lines are dancing, and that line dancing causes the 2 figures in the drawing feel like they're dancing, right? Now, continuous contour line is when you draw the outline of the subject matter without lifting a pencil. So you start with one line and you end with one line. It's very essential drawing because it allows you to really focus on an area that overlaps a lot, which often associates with focal point. Also, it helps you understand the flow of your subject matter. So it's a good brain exercise as well. Contour line is probably the most basic drawing that we have for perspective. Contour line shows the outline, shapes, and edges of the scene that omits the fine detail, surface, texture, color, or tone. It really means outline. So let's go ahead and take a look at different artists who uses contour line drawings in their work. Picasso is one of the best example here. We have a series of drawings showing a progression of realistic form to a few curving lines. Tones and details have been eliminated. It's only keeping the most essential thing. And we can see the last one, even without looking at the progression of it, we can recognize it to be a bull. Now we have David Hockney, who has produced many line drawings, but I really want you to appreciate the amount of detail that he was able to capture here, the amount of time that he spent, and the amount of effort and I guess amount of effort that he used for each line really captures the essence of this snapshot of his daily life. We move on to Alexander Kettler, and I would say he's the biggest art nerd because he used to carry wires and pliers so that he can sketch with his favorite materials. Who really sketches with wires? He does. And he creates this portraits and circus figures using wires, and he calls this drawing in space, drawing it in the air. And I found that to be most really attractive. Now I'm going to go ahead and have you pause and go back to the video link that I have, and I want you to watch this video. This is how we do blind contour line. When we do the blind contour line, I really want you to hide your drawing under the desk, and you're looking at your subject matter and you're drawing it without looking at your paper. And this is the kind of results that we are going to do. We're going to have. So watch this, please, because it's going to explain a lot of different things. So what I want you to do, this video, I want to watch it with you because it's so important. So I know I'm going to go ahead and move really quickly here because I don't want to spend too much of your time. So I'm going to move.
Before I begin to draw, let's keep walking through process.
So, let me pause. So here we saw an example of blind contour line, and I want you to do the exactly same thing. I want you to go ahead and use this picture, pause the video for 3 minutes or 5 minutes. Okay, let's give you 5 minutes. And I want you to go ahead and draw this hand in your sketchbook. Try to follow the edges of this hand and try to capture it. Now remember, you cannot look at your drawing. You can only look at your subject matter. Don't cheat. Okay, all right. So I hope that you had a successful drawing, and this is what we are going to do. And you are going to turn this assignment in. You are going to take a selfie, okay? And if you don't want to take a selfie, go ahead and take one of your portrait photo from your phone. And I want you to go ahead and create a blind contour line. And you can make it a blind continuous contour line drawing if you like. Now, what I want you to do, I want you to draw, okay, without erasing, because you're not going to look at your drawing. Please promise that you're not going to look at your drawing. You're only going to look at your photo to draw. Keep your paper under the desk and keep your phone on top of the desk and try not to look at it. Try not to take more than 5, let's say 8 minutes